So why did she do that? How could she have been with that person? Are you asking yourself these questions about your partner? Hi, this is Noemi. I am a retroactive jealousy specialist. Let's look at this question of why, how this feeling that they shouldn't have been with somebody else or they shouldn't have been with certain people or even with anybody before you came in the picture. Now, there are lots of things to actually look at here. First and foremost, it is what so from a value perspective, because really our actions are driven by values. However, sometimes there is a conflict because our actions are not actually not in line with our values. So that is often something that happens with in retroactive jealousy. So for instance, you want to be loving and kind, but because you're tormented by all these questions and you can't sleep, you can't eat, you can't do anything because this is all that is taking up your mental space, then you might actually start asking questions or start um, making comments you regret. Yes, so you might show up as a person that is not within the values. Now, one thing that I would want to start with is that if if you have certain beliefs and certain values and your partner doesn't, then you have to ask yourself whether we are talking about something that is a deal breaker or not, and then make the choice. It is as simple as that. It's not going to be easy, but it is simple because you have to say, okay, so these are my beliefs, these are my expectations, theirs are different. Therefore, this is always going to be a problem. Unless you're willing to change your beliefs, it is always going to be a problem if their beliefs are different and their values are different, and they might actually show up in the present as well, not merely in the past. But if this is out of the question, if you love them, but there is this retroactive jealousy that is just there, and these questions of I love them now, but how could they have been such a different person? Now here, I would remind you that who we are in the present is who is only who we are only who we are in the present because of our past. So our past led us to who we become today and the choices that we have made today. So if they have chosen you, it's because they have that past. And potentially you have chosen them because they have become through the experiences and the way they were shaped the person you are with today. So, in fact, you are actually saying that I love what I've got, but I want something else. Yes, but that kind of introduces a conflict. It's not possible. The other thing is that thoughts are not true. And they are not always, at least not always true. In fact, most thoughts are not. Most thoughts are silly. We all have intrusive thoughts, and no matter how much you heal, how much you transform, what happens with you, we all always have intrusive thoughts. It is just part of having a brain and having a, a, a mind, basically, having thoughts. What ma what matters is not what sort of thoughts you have, is how you interact with those thoughts. If you just let it go, you might actually even notice it. That and label it. You can label it, say, that's an intrusive thought. That actually works phenomenally well. That's something that I use if I have an intrusive thought about something, just say, that's an intrusive thought, rather than allow it to be something that describes me. So if you have an intrusive thought and and you immediately think, I am a bad person. How could I think this way? Yes, then you are starting to interact with it, but it's unnecessary. And in fact, it is negative. You're starting a cycle of negative thinking that does not lead anywhere good. So when you have a thought, instead of interacting with it or instead of um, treating it as absolute reality, always ask yourself, is that actually, is that true? Or just leave it, just actually let it pass, let it go. Or you can even label it, as I said, that's an intrusive thought, or that's a silly thought, or that's a thought. If you want to just stay neutral, that's a thought. And then get on with whatever you are doing. Now, this might actually be difficult, but even difficult things with practice, even if you practice it a little bit over time, rather than just doing what you have been doing, then you're actually reshaping the way you are thinking. And the third thing I wanted to mention is that so often we might think, oh, but I wanted this relationship to be special and I want to be the first and the only one for them. But we we don't own the other person. So we are in a well-functioning relationship, we're always together and separate. And that's where so we are growing separately and we are growing together. It's never about I am owning you and everything I want is the way it should be. So your partner might also have things that they would like to be different. It is normal, but the question is not whether we have this. The question is to what extent we let it dominate anything, dominate our thoughts, dominate our perceptions about our partner, or to what extent we incorporate or focus on it. Because what we focus on is going to grow as such because we if you focus on it because of our biases we tend to see it everywhere. It becomes a confirmation bias, and so so that we'll spot it everywhere. It's just like buying a new car, a white car, and all of a sudden you realize that most cars on the road are white. Yes, because that's what you're focusing on, and you give it more importance. Therefore, it feels as if there were more, even though there are just as many as there were last week when you didn't have a white car. It's the same thing with everything else. So, just to recap, it's important to say that we don't own our partner, and we grow together and separately, and our thoughts are not necessarily true. So treating them as the only absolute truth can lead to a lot of mental problems. And our past leads us to who we are. So our partner's past has led them to us, which is quite a wonderful thing.